Night had fallen. The air was cold, damp. A dense fog rolled in, shrouding the town in an eerie silence. Shadows danced menacingly, twisting familiar shapes into grotesque figures. The silence was broken only by the echoing clang of a distant bell, its mournful toll a harbinger of dread. An unsettling feeling hung in the air, a premonition of something wicked this way coming. The townsfolk, their faces etched with fear, hurried indoors, barring their windows and doors against the encroaching darkness. For they knew, as the darkness deepened, so did the mystery of the man who haunted their cobblestone streets. Jonathan Harker, a young writer new to the village, scoffed at the tales whispered in hushed tones. He dismissed them as mere superstition, the ramblings of frightened minds. One particularly foggy night, driven by his skepticism, Jonathan ventured out. He wanted to disprove the myth, to prove that logic triumphed over fear. As he walked deeper into the fog-laden streets, a figure emerged from the swirling mist. A tall, gaunt figure cloaked in shadows. The man, if he could be called that, stood motionless, his face obscured by the darkness. Jonathan felt a chill run down his spine, a primal fear he couldn't explain. Jonathan tried to speak, but words failed him. The figure remained silent, its presence radiating an unsettling aura. Jonathan could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He was frozen in place. A sudden gust of wind parted the fog momentarily, revealing a glimpse of the man's face. It was ashen and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to pierce through Jonathan's very soul. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure melted back into the fog, leaving Jonathan trembling in the cold night air. Jonathan, shaken to his core, stumbled back to his lodgings. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had looked upon something truly evil. Days turned into sleepless nights as Jonathan grappled with his encounter. Was the man real, or a figment of his imagination? Driven by an insatiable curiosity, he began to investigate, poring over ancient texts and local lore. He discovered tales of a being who existed in shadow, feeding on fear and despair. One moonless night, Jonathan returned to the spot of his encounter. To his horror, standing there, shrouded in darkness, was himself? Jonathan reached out to touch the figure, but his hand passed through it as if it were mere vapor. Fear overwhelmed him as he realized the truth. He was no longer the man he thought he was. The darkness had claimed him.